There are certain connections that do not follow the rules you were taught about love. They do not begin with butterflies. They do not feel safe at first. They do not look like the romance you were promised in movies or fairy tales, or the advice your friends give you over coffee. Instead, they unsettle you. They trigger something deep and unnamed. They make you behave in ways you do not recognize. And somewhere in the confusion, in the discomfort, in the strange gravity of it all, you begin to suspect that what you are experiencing is not ordinary attraction. It is something far older and far more intelligent than your conscious mind can explain. Carl Jung spent his entire career studying these connections. Not from the outside, from the inside. He mapped the unconscious forces that draw two people together with a precision that most modern relationship advice does not come close to touching. And what he found contradicts almost everything the culture tells you about how true love is supposed to feel. Because according to Jung, true love does not always feel like love at first. Sometimes it feels like disruption, like confrontation, like standing in front of a mirror you never asked for and seeing a version of yourself you have spent your entire life avoiding. Here are 9 signs, strange ones, counterintuitive ones, that according to Jungian psychology indicate you may have met the person your psyche has been searching for. And the last sign is the one most people will never hear from anyone else. The first sign. They felt familiar before they felt attractive. Most attraction begins on the surface. Physical appearance, charm, chemistry, the usual metrics. But a connection that Jung would consider psychologically significant begins differently. It begins with recognition. Not the kind of recognition where you think you have seen them before. Something deeper. Something that registers in your body before your mind catches up. A sense that you already know this person even though you have never spoken. A feeling of arrival rather than discovery. As if you did not just meet someone new but reunited with someone your unconscious has been expecting. Jung attributed this to what he called the collective unconscious, a layer of the psyche that exists beneath personal memory and contains the accumulated psychological inheritance of the entire human species. Within this layer live the archetypes, universal patterns of human experience that shape how you perceive the world and especially how you perceive other people. When someone aligns with a deep archetypal pattern in your psyche, particularly the anima for men or the animus for women, the recognition is immediate and visceral. Your conscious mind has no explanation for it. You just know. And that knowing has a quality to it that ordinary attraction does not. It feels less like wanting and more like remembering. If the first thing you felt in someone's presence was not excitement, but familiarity, not novelty, but homecoming, that is not your imagination. That is your unconscious recognizing a pattern it has been carrying long before you were born, and there is a specific quality to this familiarity that distinguishes it from ordinary comfort. Comfort is passive. This is active. It does not put you at ease. It puts you at attention. You feel simultaneously relaxed and alert, as if something important is happening and your entire system knows it, even though your conscious mind is still trying to figure out why you cannot stop looking at this person across the room. That tension between calm and electricity is the signature of archetypal recognition. Your body has identified something your mind will take months to understand. The second sign. They activate parts of you that no one else reaches. You have a personality, a set of traits, behaviors, and emotional responses that you identify as you, and then this person walks into your life and suddenly traits you did not know you had start surfacing. You become funnier, more honest, more emotional, more creative, more confrontational, more tender. Parts of yourself that have been dormant for years, maybe forever, begin waking up in their presence. This is not them making you a better person. This is far more interesting than that. Jung would say they are activating your latent psychological material, the parts of you that were never developed because your environment did not call for them, the confidence you never needed until someone made you want to be brave, The vulnerability you never accessed until someone made it feel safe. The passion you buried because no one ever stirred it. A true love connection, in the Jungian sense, does not just make you feel good. It makes you feel more of everything, including the things you have been avoiding. And that is exactly what makes it both exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. If someone brings out dimensions of your personality that surprise even you, that is not infatuation doing its usual trick. That is your psyche responding to the presence of someone who has access to rooms inside you that have been locked for a very long time. The third sign, you feel simultaneously drawn to them and afraid of them. This is the sign that confuses people the most, because we have been taught that love should feel safe, comfortable, easy. And this connection feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. You want to move toward them and you want to run, not because they are dangerous, but because what they represent to your psyche is dangerous. They represent change, deep, structural, irreversible change. Jung understood that the unconscious does not pursue comfort, it pursues wholeness. And wholeness requires integrating the parts of yourself that you have spent your entire life keeping out of sight. The shadow, the repressed emotions, the unlived potential. When you meet someone who activates this integration process, your ego feels threatened, because the ego's job is to maintain the status quo, to keep the mask in place, to protect the identity you have carefully constructed. This person threatens all of that, not by doing anything wrong, by being someone your psyche cannot ignore, someone who, simply by existing in your life, makes it impossible to keep pretending you are smaller than you are. The simultaneous pull and fear is not a red flag. It is the signature of a connection that has the power to fundamentally change who you are, and your ego knows it. That is why it is afraid. The fourth sign, your dreams change after meeting them. This sign often goes unnoticed because most people do not pay attention to their dreams, but Jung considered dreams the most honest communication your psyche produces, and when a psychologically significant person enters your life, your dream world responds immediately. You might start dreaming about them directly. Vivid, emotionally charged dreams that feel more real than waking interaction. Or you might not dream about them at all, but notice that the themes of your dreams shift. Water appears more frequently. Houses with new rooms, bridges, journeys to unfamiliar places, animals you have never encountered before. Jung spent decades documenting the dream symbols that accompany major psychological transitions. And he found that when the unconscious recognizes a connection as significant, it begins producing symbolic material that reflects the transformation underway. The dreams are not about the person. They are about what the person is activating inside you. The unconscious is processing material faster than your waking mind can handle, and the overflow shows up while you sleep. If your dream life intensified, became stranger, more vivid, more emotionally charged after meeting someone, your unconscious is telling you something your conscious mind may not be ready to hear. This person is not just passing through your life, they are rearranging it from the inside. The fifth sign. Synchronicities multiply around the connection. You think about them and they call. You mention their name and they walk into the room. You find yourself in the same unlikely place at the same unlikely time, with a frequency that defies statistical probability. Songs that describe your exact situation play at the exact moment you need to hear them. Numbers repeat. Themes echo. The universe seems to be underlining this connection with a highlighter that will not run dry. Jung coined the term synchronicity to describe these meaningful coincidences, events that are not causally related but are connected by meaning. He did not consider them magical thinking. He considered them evidence that the psyche and the external world are more deeply entangled than rational materialism admits. In his 1952 paper on the subject, Jung argued that synchronicity tends to cluster around moments of psychological significance. The more important the inner transformation, the more the outer world seems to mirror it. and nothing triggers transformation like a connection that engages the deepest layers of the unconscious. If you are experiencing an unusual density of coincidences around a specific person, Jung would not tell you to dismiss it. He would tell you to pay very close attention, because your psyche and the world are agreeing on something, and that kind of agreement does not happen for trivial connections. The sixth sign: they mirror your deepest wound back to you. This is the sign that feels least like love and most like punishment. The person who is meant for you, according to Jung's framework, will inevitably touch the wound you have spent your entire life protecting, not because they are cruel, but because true intimacy requires accessing the parts of you that are hidden, and the wound is always the most hidden thing. If your core wound is abandonment, this person will trigger your fear of being left, not because they are unreliable, but because caring about them makes the stakes of loss feel catastrophic. If your wound is unworthiness, their love will feel suspicious, too good, undeserved. You will look for evidence that it is not real, because accepting it would mean confronting the lie you have been telling yourself about your own value. If your wound is engulfment, their closeness will feel suffocating at moments, not because they are controlling, but because intimacy itself triggers the part of you that learned to equate love with the loss of self. Jung called this shadow projection. The wound lives in the shadow, and it gets projected onto the person closest to you. But here is the critical distinction. In a surface connection, the wound gets triggered and nothing changes. The same pain cycles endlessly. You fight the same fight. You feel the same hurt. And eventually, you either go numb to it or you leave. In a true love connection, the wound gets triggered and healing becomes possible, because this person is not just touching the wound. They are also holding the space for you to finally look at it. Something about how they respond, or how they stay, or how they reflect it back to you without judgment, creates conditions that your psyche has never had before. Conditions where the wound can be witnessed rather than just repeated, and a wound that is witnessed begins to transform, not instantly, not painlessly, but genuinely. The seventh sign: you cannot perform around them. You have a version of yourself that you show to the world. Everyone does. Jung called it the persona. It is the socially acceptable mask you built starting in childhood. Around most people, the persona operates smoothly. You know what to say, how to behave, which version of yourself to present depending on the audience. And then there is this person. Around them, the persona starts glitching. You say things you did not plan to say. You reveal things you normally keep hidden. You laugh differently. You cry more easily. You cannot maintain the curated version of yourself because something about their presence makes the mask feel unbearable to wear. This is profoundly uncomfortable, especially if you have spent years perfecting the performance. Suddenly, here is someone who seems to see through it without even trying, not because they are analyzing you, but because the connection operates at a depth where the persona simply cannot function. It is too shallow a structure to contain what is happening between you. If you feel unable to be anything other than exactly who you are around a specific person, that is not a loss of control. That is the persona recognizing that it is not needed here, that this is a space where the real you is not only safe to emerge, but is being specifically called for. The eighth sign: the relationship does not follow a linear path. Every love story you have been told follows a trajectory. You meet, you fall in love, you build a life together. It moves forward in a straight line from attraction to commitment to stability, clean, predictable, progressive. This connection does not work like that. It might start intensely and then pull apart. It might involve periods of separation that feel both necessary and agonizing. There might be false endings, unexpected returns, phases where you are certain it is over, followed by moments that make it clear it has barely begun. The path looks like a spiral, not a line. It circles back on itself, each loop taking you deeper. Jung would have recognized this as the natural rhythm of individuation playing out inside a relationship. Psychological growth does not move in straight lines. It moves in cycles of confrontation, dissolution, and integration. Expansion followed by contraction, followed by deeper expansion. A connection that serves individuation will mirror this rhythm. It will feel messy and non-linear precisely because it is doing real psychological work, not following a culturally scripted timeline. If your connection with someone has been anything but straightforward, if it has confused you with its timing, its pauses, its unexpected resurrections, do not assume that means it is unstable. It might mean it is operating on a deeper logic than either of you can see from the inside. The ninth sign. And this is the one I said most people will never hear from anyone else. Being with them makes you more alone with yourself, in the best possible way. Every other sign on this list is about what happens between you and the other person. This one is about what happens inside you when you step away from them. And it is the most reliable indicator Jung's framework gives us. In most relationships, being apart from the other person creates anxiety, a pull to reconnect, a restlessness that only their presence resolves. You feel incomplete without them. You reach for your phone. You count the hours until you see them again. The space between you feels like emptiness. In a true love connection, the space between you feels like something else entirely. It feels generative, fertile. You step away from this person, and instead of feeling diminished, you feel returned to yourself. Their presence does not fill a void. It activates a fullness that continues even in their absence. You think more clearly. You create more freely. You sit with yourself more honestly. Being loved by them does not make you dependent on them. It makes you more capable of being alone. This is the hallmark of what Jung called individuated love. Love between two people who are each committed to their own wholeness. Not love that merges, not love that consumes. Love that individuates. Love that makes each person more themselves, not less. Jung believed this was the highest form of human connection. Not the most dramatic, not the most intense, not the one that makes the best story, the one that makes the best people. Two individuals who, through the alchemy of their connection, become more fully realized versions of themselves than either could have become alone. And here is why this sign is the most important. Because every other sign on this list could theoretically be mimicked by an unhealthy attachment. Trauma bonds feel familiar. Codependency activates dormant parts of you. Anxious attachment produces fear alongside attraction. Toxic relationships trigger your wounds constantly. The unconscious does not distinguish between growth and repetition compulsion at first glance. But this sign, the ninth sign, cannot be faked. An unhealthy connection will always make you less yourself when you are alone. It will always create anxiety in the space between contact. It will always leave you feeling like something is missing when they are not there, because the connection is not feeding your wholeness, it is feeding your wound. Only a true love connection, the kind that Jung's entire body of work points toward, leaves you more whole in its wake, more yourself, more grounded, more alive. Not because the other person completed you, but because being seen by them, deeply and honestly seen, gave you permission to finally complete yourself. This is why Jung never described true love as finding your other half. He found that idea psychologically dangerous. Two halves coming together creates dependency. Two whole people coming together creates something transcendent. Something that does not just satisfy the human need for connection, but fulfills the deeper need for meaning, for purpose, for the feeling that your life is being lived at its full depth rather than skimming along the surface. The person who is truly meant for you does not make your life easier. They make your life larger. They expand what you thought was possible for yourself. And they do this not by giving you anything you lack, but by reflecting back to you everything you already are, but were too afraid to claim. If you have felt this, if someone's love has made you braver in your solitude rather than more afraid of it, You are experiencing something that most people search for their entire lives without finding. Do not let it pass unrecognized. If this video showed you something you have been feeling but could not name, subscribe to Psyche Core. We go into the psychology that lives beneath the surface of human experience, the ideas that change how you understand yourself and every relationship you have ever had. Hit the notification bell so you do not miss what is coming next. And tell me in the comments, which sign stopped you? Which one made you think of a specific person? I have found that naming the connection, even anonymously, even just to strangers on the internet, is sometimes the first time you admit to yourself what you already know. And that admission changes everything.